Thank you for listening to Dharma Talk from One Mind Dharma. I am Matthew Sokolov.
I'm Elizabeth Sokolov.
And we are One Mind Dharma. Well, not entirely. There are other people that do things and write for our blog and whatnot. But, you can learn more about us at oneminddharma.com. And I feel like I usually give a lot of announcements at the beginning. Not a lot, but a fair amount of announcements at the beginning. The vegetables before the tofu. And today we just have one, and that's we're looking at opening our own meditation space. I've been calling it a space.
I like that. It's a meditation space.
Because studio sounds... I don't know.
It just feels like that's the right word.
It's a space, a donation-based meditation community here in Sonoma County. We're in the process of trying to rent a place right now, and we're raising some money to help us kind of redo the floors, get meditation cushions and chairs, and really get it going to provide a community meditation space where people can come and meditate. We're hoping to have some other teachers come in and lead some other groups, and have it be donation-based so people can join and participate without worrying too much about money. We would love your support. I probably have asked for support so many times on so many different things, so I know it can be overwhelming, but we do run One Mind Dharma pretty largely off donations. And it is, we both have I have a full-time job. Elizabeth helps with we own a business, a marketing company, and Elizabeth does a lot of work in addition to being in school and doing her MFT internship, traineeship, and we're busy. And it's One Mind Dharma is a passion of ours and run off generosity from the community. And we have thousands of people that listen to our podcasts and subscribe to our emails and really think that we're trying to make the meditation accessible. It is a passion of ours. So we appreciate your generosity and help making this in-person, real, almost said studio, space happen for our community here in Sonoma County. You can visit oneminddharma.com/space to learn about supporting us. We're asking for some help in upfront costs, like first and last month's rent and redoing the flooring and everything. And then we're also looking for some people willing to contribute monthly, even if it's just $1 or $2 a month. Just to help support the space and the rent, as we are running on a donation basis, and it's a little bit scary. So oneminddharma.com/space. We super appreciate it. If you're thinking about even possibly donating, seriously, $1 helps. It's $1 we wouldn't have otherwise. Our plan isn't to make a ton of money off this, obviously, being a meditation teacher. But to provide a space for the community to come and sit. And we have some sitting groups here, but really our own, as you keep saying, our own meditation, a space dedicated to meditation.
Yeah.
So, and other mindfulness practices. Anyways, oneminddharma.com/space. I should put a space background on it. Some Hubble images.
Space.
So anyways, with that, I thought maybe start with, we just went on retreat a little while ago at Spirit Rock, where we live nearby, and they say 10-day, but it's like a 7-day retreat.
You're there 10 days.
Yeah, but they're 2 of them are half days. It's like an 8-day retreat on Metta, which was really beautiful, and that I think that's where this topic stems from a little bit. I could be wrong.
Yeah, definitely. And George.
Oh, George. All right.
I'm telling that
Let's
story.
Start with George.
That's where we're starting.
Yeah.
So, like Matthew just said, we were on this really beautiful 10-day or 8-day, depending on how you look at it, meditation retreat, all about opening your heart. And I had a few really incredible experiences on the retreat, just feeling incredibly connected and interconnected with the world and nature and all the animals and all the people around me. I grew up in New York City, and that's a really disconnected way from nature to grow up, I think. I certainly, we went like hiking and vacations, but it's different than when you live somewhere where you really feel like you're a part of nature.
Like on retreat at Spirit Rock.
Yeah, but I think a lot of us, even if you don't live in New York, feel a little bit disconnected from nature most of the time. So certainly being at Spirit Rock, where you're outside like all day, every day, doing walking meditation and like opening your heart to everything, I just started to feel like I wasn't separate. Like this whole ecosystem that I was in, really, I was a part of it. I was not just standing there observing it, like I was standing in it. And I had one experience, particularly with birds. I grew up in New York again, so there were pigeons everywhere. Maybe that's why I've never really had a fondness for birds.
Whoa.
But
you apologize to any pigeons listening.
I'm sorry, pigeons. I've never felt like, I never disliked birds. I just never really felt that like fondness or connection to them like I do to dogs and cats and other maybe
mammals.
Cute mammals. Anyway, I was on retreat and I was meditating one day, and I opened my eyes and I looked up at this tree, and it was just every branch was covered in birds, every branch. And I was sort of musing at like how incredible it is that everything necessary for life is contained in these little tiny bodies. Anyway, so I started to have this really, the point being, I started to have this feeling of really profound interconnectedness, really feeling that connection. And so we were off retreat for like a week, and we were sitting watching TV, or watching a movie. We were watching a movie, and this little adorable baby possum just comes strolling into our living room. We have lovingly named him George. And what struck me most about it.
Can I just disclaimer?
We didn't.
Possums are living animals, and I mean no disrespect, but visually they're kind of gross.
They look like rats.
But baby possums are adorable. Google it because they're adorable.
They're so cute. And it did look sort of like a rat, actually.
You thought it was a rat.
Yeah, I was like, honey, is that a rat or a possum? And it was just like really quietly and slowly walking through our living room. But part of what struck me about it was there was a time in my life where I would have jumped up and been like, ew, what is this doing in my house? And been all freaked out by this little tiny being who was just trying to find some shelter. And that really, to me, it might seem small or silly, but that is such a profound impact that my meditation practice has had on me, and such a profound impact of noticing interconnectedness is this real like care and fondness and kindness that I feel towards living beings, and not being afraid of them. Like this, I mean, he was like 5 inches big. He was so small. We don't know if he was a he, but we decided he was.
It's noble of us.
Anyway, so I thought that I would share that story.
It even happened that we texted the picture of him or her or they to a couple people, and someone said, "You guys are such animal lovers." I would have screamed.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh my gosh, it was walking so slowly and moving so softly and pretty nonviolent.
Very nonviolent.
Yeah, I was scared more than anything. Yeah, I think the interconnectedness is kind of like, it's interesting because it can be kind of like trippy in the mind, and it can be like a real heart opening, just that like felt sense of connection.
Yeah. Like
at the same time, because I've had that on and off retreat where you just have that moment of just realizing how connected everything is. And intellectually, it kind of hurts a little bit. And then in the heart, it's like a real sense of belonging. I've had it with food, and that was where I really had that profound experience. And we were talking about this when we got off retreat, I think.
Yeah. Was
at Deer Park, a monastery in the tradition of Thich Nhat Hanh down in San Diego. And they have I think there's 5 reflections before you eat your food. And it's all vegetarian there. And I frankly don't remember what all 5 are. But I do remember that you sit there in, maybe not a formal meditative state, but in a meditation essentially. And ponder or reflect on how much love and work and energy goes into this food. And I really kind of like was one of those few like white light moments
Mm.
that I've had, where you realize that if you just take like whatever it is, like a piece of lettuce, that first of all, that lettuce came from another head of lettuce, or a lab. Just kidding.
Probably not.
But it came from another head of lettuce. It was put in the ground, which someone probably got prepared to grow the lettuce. And then, I don't know the specifics of growing lettuce, so we'll just say it was watered and taken care of, maybe given some nutrients and food. It was harvested. It was, brought from wherever it was grown to the farmer's market or grocery store or whatever, where it was, we went and bought it. And just like the people and manpower, or human power rather, that went into that alone is amazing. And all the people you're kind of connected with just by that. And then you consider the energy from the sun that went into it, the water and rain, or however they water it with sprinklers because California's been in a drought. Um, and all the different kind of elements that went into it. And then the part that really blows my mind is when you eat that lettuce, and I again am going to talk about something I know very little about. When you eat that lettuce, physically part of it becomes part of your body. Of course, you expel quite a bit of it. But part of it, as your body breaks it down, it takes the nutrients from that lettuce and really turns it into part of your body. And it's really crazy to think that like this, there's how interconnected we are. Like our body's made up of these little pieces of the world around us, essentially.
It really is pretty incredible. And I like what you were saying before you were talking about that, your preface sort of, which is it's really one thing. It can be sort of trippy in your mind and you can think about it. And it's really another thing to experience interconnectedness in that way where you have that experience with the little possum or with the head of lettuce or whatever it is, and to really feel in to, oh, this is what it feels like to be connected. And I think you said it very well. It leads to a sense of belonging. And to me, it also really leads to a sense of compassion and kindness and care. I think that, my direct experience has been that the more that I notice and appreciate and live in a feeling of interconnectedness, the more that naturally this feeling of kindness or metta arises. Because if it's the least in a selfish way, if it's a part of me or if I'm connected to it, then I can't dislike it. I gotta learn to like it.
Well, and that's why I think that there's something to be said for specifically sitting in heart practices and opening the heart with metta and compassion and appreciative joy. But there's also something to be said for investigating and seeing clearly, because exactly that, when we see clearly, we've had this conversation because you lean more towards the heart practices and I lean more towards the insight practices, and I do think there's a quality of when we see things a little more clear, when we see the interdependence of everything and how interconnected we are. It does help us see that. It helps us break down this delusion that humans are so far outside of everything else in the world. And it's not just nature. Like we do it with other humans. We do it with everything.
Yeah.
And it really is. I mean, you even think about like we have a wooden table out there and all the different pieces of that table that came together, and there's some metal, and our friend Adam made it the same. He is a multi-talented artist. He made our logo and did our t-shirts and made us like a beautiful table. And like all the different pieces that went, and that's an inanimate, not alive object anymore.
Yeah.
But even the parts of it that are like metal and all the things that went into that, and his time and effort and everything. I also think there's that piece of, it was like a few years ago when I was doing something and we were supposed to, it was like some training, was it CDL? Yeah, when external mindfulness.
Yeah, it was.
And there's some lines in the Buddhist suttas in the Satipatthana where the Buddha talks about having mindfulness internally and externally. And there's a lot of different opinions about what that means, and that maybe is a conversation for another time. but I was talking to one of my teachers, and he was talking about, I think it was Noah, actually, Noah Levine, when I was talking to him about it, and he encouraged me to look at like other people's experience, kind of. So like to notice just when I see someone else breathing, not to like stare at someone's chest, um, but just to notice when someone else is breathing. And it's kind of like the bird thing that you started by telling. I noticed it at Spirit Rock. We were talking about it. The lizards, or the tiny little lizards, and you can see their bodies breathing. Or we have like a little Australian Shepherd dog, and when you hold her, you can feel her heartbeat because it's always beating really fast because she's always excited. But it's like really to really see that and think, oh, I know how that feels. Like I have that experience as well. You also said something interesting the other day. You said, I think dogs are smarter than we give them credit for. And it tends to be the case, like just over the years in the past decades, that we're beginning to find that there are many animals that are much smarter than we give them credit for. I just saw something about ravens, and they're incredibly smart. That we're not as separate as we think.
There's even studies about plants and trees.
We were just talking about that. How if when you go to like snip a plant, hopefully for a good reason, like you're eating it, not just murdering plants, but when you go to snip a plant actually starts to send, what is it? It sends like the
chemical repair agents.
Yeah, it like starts to repair itself before you've even snipped it, which is crazy. Obviously plants don't have a brain and a collection of neurons or whatever like we do, but they suggesting that a plant knows in a sense when it's about to be cut or hurt. And I'm not saying don't eat plants or anything, but but it's just crazy. It's just not there. These things we see as like, I'm different than the plants, or I'm different than the lizard because is kind of BS. It's kind of in our head.
And so much psychology research has centered on trying to find what it is that makes humans different from the rest of animals. And to me, that's always seemed like so futile a task, because I don't want to feel like I'm so separate and superior. I think that's led to a lot of harm being caused in our world. And it's not to say that we're all the same. That's obviously ridiculous. There are differing levels of intelligence or sentience. But
amongst humans.
Yeah, amongst humans and interspecies. But just because of that, it doesn't mean that we can't care about everything and really feel a sense of belonging with everything.
And I think it does. I think it speaks to even just taking it on a human level too, of all the varying kinds of discrimination, systemic oppression that goes on in the United States alone and elsewhere, of course, in the world, in the same ways and different ways. But also just even like, nationalism a little bit. We always talk about that I understand that, oftentimes people living in different places have different cultures and different ideals. But it's really incredible when you read something on the news and it's like, oh, 2 Americans died in, wherever, in India. And it's on like my Google News, like right at the top, where, thousands of people died, thousands of people that aren't American died, and it doesn't even make my news feed. Yeah. And it's like, because there's a sense of like, oh, well, they're American, they're us. And it's like, those are people too, we're not the separation of culture, the separation of skin color, the separation of gender identity or sexual preference, nationality is largely human made. And I think that, I don't want to get political on it or anything, but as much as a practice, just to see that how much we do belong to each other.
Yeah, and that was going to be my last note on this topic, which is really an encouragement to, I don't force it, but to go out and really try to notice interconnectedness and see if having it on your mind can really facilitate an experience with it. Or you can try the practice of mindful eating and reflecting on where the food came from before you eat it and see if that facilitates an experience. Or just take a walk down the street and notice everything that's living. the plants, the animals. I don't care where you live and how concrete it is, like literally made of concrete. There are still living beings to notice, whether they're bugs or whatever they are. But really, this encouragement to go out and experience interconnectedness. Don't just, sit around and think about it and be like, oh, yeah, that's true. Like go have an experience with it.
Yeah, it can be really beautiful. I mean, even like with the working with the neutral people in hard practices, whether you're at like a store or something too, just to notice that the person on the other side of the counter, or your bus driver, or your coworker, or your neighbor, whether or not you like them or know them or anything, they're a person, and maybe their happiness looks different, maybe their life looks different, but just like you, they have the desire to be happy. They fall into wishing things were different than they were. They have hopes and dreams and fears and sorrows, and yeah, it can be really amazing.
Thank you.
I want to say that I recently read, I think I might have shared a little bit about it on social media, Sharon Salzberg's new book, um, Real Love, and been listening. I highly recommend listening to her podcast called The Meta Hour with Sharon Salzberg. Um, with Sharon Salzberg, and but it's a phenomenal book, and it talks a little bit about interconnectedness in it, and just using that understanding to foster this cultivation of love, which she, if you read the book and listen to her podcast, she talks a lot about what that word means and is asking. I think she offers the connection.
Yeah, that's
and she talks to like Tara Brach and Roseanne Cash and Mark Epstein and Dr. Mark Epstein, and who we listen to a couple other ones, Ethan Nichtern and stuff, and asks them what they think love is, and really investigating it. But her, her kind of foundational piece is it's connecting with others, which speaks to this interconnectedness. It's a phenomenal book. She did not pay me to plug it. I wish she would, but she doesn't have to. It's really an amazing book, and she's an amazing teacher.
Awesome.
Yeah. Anything else?
No. Just to be clear, we did not keep the baby possum. We set him outside.
Yeah, we really looked. We looked online
to see what to do.
And it was like,
about
just
him.
don't. You're just gonna kill it, basically. Don't do it.
It said don't feed him, so we lovingly set him outside.
And then I checked it like obsessively
every
to see if he was still
minutes.
there. Well, cool. So yeah, visit us at oneminddharma.com. You can visit Elizabeth's website at onemindtherapy.com. And help us open this new space, onemindharma.com/space. And you're always welcome to email us with any questions, Matthew at onemindharma.com or Elizabeth at onemindharma.com. We also both offer one-on-one sessions and coaching for people who want to, whether they want to investigate or deepen their meditation practice, or kind of look at bringing mindfulness and compassion to their daily lives. We work one-on-one with people all across the country via Skype or video chat. Doesn't have to be Skype. So feel free to hit us up. With that, we'll talk to you soon.